Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for our fourth webinar in the five-part series. My name is Olivia Cederberg. I am the Conservation and Extension Coordinator with Chinook Applied Research Association, and I will be your host today. The following webinars are being brought to you by the Alberta Range Stewardship course and the Southern Alberta Grazing School for Women. There we go. The Alberta Range Stewardship course is a cooperative initiative of several organizations, including beef producers. It has its roots in the Stockman's Range Management courses that were offered across Alberta in the past. The course provides an opportunity for livestock producers and professionals to come together to share information and expertise because both provide valuable knowledge and skills. Our goals as we share experiences and information is to keep ranching and operations sustainable in Alberta, economically, but also socially and environmentally. It is also offered throughout Alberta and is typically a 1 to 2 day course with a combination of indoor and hands-on learning. This year would be the third year of the course that has been offered, but it will be online due to the COVID-19 limitations. The Southern Alberta Grazing School for Women is an annual event that is now in its 17th year. It brings together women in the network to network and share experiences and to develop and enhance farm and ranch management skills. The school is always partnership-based and hosted every year by various counties, municipalities, government agencies, and nonprofit groups from across Southern Alberta. The two groups decided to team up in the time of COVID and offer these webinars instead of the usual in-person workshops. So we have a quick poll for you to fill out before we go into some housekeeping items. We'd like to get an understanding of who is attending today. The poll should pop up on your screen now. Simply check your answers. You may have to scroll down to answer all, and then click the submit button to close out the screen. For some housekeeping, today, your microphones are muted. The presentation will be approximately 30 minutes long with questions to follow. If you lose connection and lose the presentation, don't worry, the presentation is being recorded today and will be sent a link afterwards via email. If you are having troubles hearing or any other technical troubles, you can use the chat box at the bottom of your screen. You can also ask questions using the Q&A function. The icon is at the bottom of your screen. These four sessions were recorded, but the fifth and final one will be live. While we will officially be ending at the hour mark, the presenter will stay online for a bit for discussion if anyone would like. To ask a question or bring up a topic during the time, you can raise your hand electronically. To do this, click on the participant icon at the bottom of the screen and use the raise your hand button and ask your question. So we'll just have a quick look at the poll. So it looks like 49% are agriculture primary producers, 21% government, 5% consultant, 9% conservation nonprofit or non-government. And it looks like there's 98% is just one person at the screen and 2% is two. That's good to see. So. So before we get started, we want to take a minute to thank all of the organizations and people who came together to make these two events possible. So today we have Gould Ranching, Lacey Gould, and their farm is near Concert, Alberta. So she can just take control of the screen and we will have her present.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lacey Gould. I'm very happy you all came online this early and seeing how this works out. I've never done the Zoom thing, so just, yeah, raise your hand and if for some reason you can't hear me or something. So I'm going to talk about our operation. It's quite a large operation with a few people involved. So I'm just one of the people in the background, essentially. So we have cattle, crop, and we have bison. So I'm also the livestock nutritionist and conservation agronomist in Cara, and I manage the livestock nutrition, so the minerals, the feed ration formulation, feed and water testing. I also do grants, projects, and shelter belt and riparian health for Gould ranching. So this is my little family. So my husband and I have 3 little girls, and it's just really busy all the time on the farm. And my husband's definitely a workaholic, and he you know, we keep really busy. And me and the girls always go off and do all the adventures with him on the farm and help, you know, the farm with him. So Gould ranching, like I said, there's a few people involved in our operation. We are the 4th generation. So the Gould family has ranched south of Concert, Alberta for 100 years. The operation includes native range, reseeded forage, and annually cropped land near the center of Special Areas 4. As well as other long-term residents of special areas, the Goulds have thrived and expanded their operation under the harsh growing conditions typical to East Central Alberta. Now managed by the 4th generation of the family, Gould ranching includes beef, bison, cow-calf, backgrounding, yearling enterprises, along with annual cropping for grain and feed production. Expertise within the family include 2 veterinarians, Zoe Gould of Oyen Vet Services and Nora Gould, that's my mother-in-law, and we have 2 agronomists, a crop agronomist, Farley Gould, and myself as a livestock agronomist and conservation agronomist. So this is just the family picture, and so everyone has a share in the farm, and we all farm together. So Bronwyn, she's a doctor and she's in Saskatchewan, but she definitely shares in the farm as well. And so we have a pretty big operation with a lot of people, but it really has a huge benefits as well. So now we'll get right into our operation. So we have our calf-cow operation. It encompasses about 1,100 head. Our heifers start calving May 1st and our cows May 15th. We tag and we band the steers at birth by either roping them off a horseback or we hook out of the box of a truck, which can be a little bumpy for the person hooking, but it seems to work out pretty good. The pickup truck allows for safe pickup of the calf if we have our moody cows that don't want us on the ground with their calf. So we just pick up the calf, put it in the box of the truck, do our thing, and then toss it out again. Once 25 or a quarter of the animals have calved out, we always go in and we pair out our animals. So we have our pairs that are in a new pasture, and then we have our still to calve in one pasture. And the reason we do that is just for ease of checking, because we do check quite frequently. We check our cows probably twice a day or more if we need it, and our heifers, they're like my mother-in-law's babies, and she checks them probably way too much, but we keep a real close eye on the heifers. So yeah, we tend to like to have them split up, and it's really lots of fun to run out and pair out. That's probably this is me and Lucy, and we're pairing out my horse Lucy. We really enjoy that part of the farm. We also background animals as well in our feedlot. So our calves, they might go to auction in the fall if it's there. You can see that we do have a later calving than other people. We're kind of calving into the spring. We really like to calve on the grass, and we find it works really well for our operation, and the calves seem to get up and do really well, and we're not worried about those spring storms as much. And they're always out on big pastures, so we're not worried. We don't have huge issues with scours, and so we're finding that's working for us. And also since we do have the backgrounding facility, we're able to keep those calves back if they're a little small and they don't make the market weight and what we want. So nutrition is the utmost importance, probably because I'm a nutritionist, so I kind of hammer it into everything. But we feed test all of our stored feeds, and we get out and do pasture assessments and provide a custom-based mineral based on those feeds. And we also utilize the Cow Bites program, ration formulation program, to make sure we're providing those animals with the correct feed and enough feed. Oh, okay. So our custom mineral comes in various mixes throughout the year. We have a prepartum mix. This one is this one's for before they calve, and we have it both in a freestyle and also in the mixer style. And so we get a custom one from Greenbelt Farms out of Wainwright. They've been doing great for us, and it's really easy to work with Mark, and we find that we're able to maneuver the minerals as we need fit, and the vitamins based on our feed tests. So our prepartum mineral, we have high vitamin E. We always add extra vitamin E in the mineral, and the reason we do is because even your bags, like you get at UFA with vitamin A, D, and E, there's only ever enough E to kind of sustain the vitamin A and D. It's not really there, and there's not enough in it usually. And vitamin E is very important in stress management, cortisol levels. So we find it really good to have it nice and high during pregnancy and at calving, just so they have that that help with the stress at those times. So we make sure that we add extra vitamin E. It is costly, it definitely is, but we find that it has worked out, and we've been doing it for about 5 years now. And we add we make sure that the selenium also in our mineral is nice and high. So at least 3 months prior, just so that it's built up in the cattle system, so they have that selenium, and they transfer that selenium to their calves as well. So we also have a postpartum mineral, and it's supplied after calving because it's postpartum, and it's free choice most of the time because we are grazing at that point, and we keep that pretty high in vitamin E too. We try and keep all of our minerals high in vitamin E, but it's also high in phosphorus. And the reason it's high in phosphorus is because it helps to clean up and get ready for conception. So we really want those cows ready and ready for those bulls, and phosphorus will help with that. It is more expensive, but it seems to get those animals ready in the time that we need them ready for. We have a feedlot mineral as well that's usually high in calcium. That's because a lot of our stored, like our silages, are high in phosphorus because it's a grain-based feed. So, or if you're feeding a lot of high grain, or if we're corn grazing, there's high phosphorus in that corn, and we want to make sure that calcium gets to even ratio. And so we always provide a higher calcium feedlot mineral, but as I said, it's based on the feed test as well. We have a yearling mineral, which is free choice as well, and that is that we throw out in pasture. This is the first year that we're actually trying Bovitec, so it's essentially rumensin on pasture. So we do use rumensin in our feedlot mineral when we mix it up, but you can't give that free choice. So we're trying this out this year to see if it pencils out on the cost of it and how much these animals gain. So we background our calves each year, and we keep back replacement heifers. Depending on the market, we'll regrass them in the spring or sell them through auction markets. So we love corn grazing. We got into it for about 3 years now. We provide 3 to 4 days at a time, and we move an electric fence, and it seems to work really well. Yes, we have some cows that don't respect that fence, but overall we've had good experience in this form of management. So depending on the condition of the cattle and the feed test of the corn, which can be difficult because testing standing corn can be difficult, but we do test it each year. We also feed out straw and oat hulls to supplement or to match, to help balance the rations. So we will give supplement if it's working well. A lot of times on the corn grazing, we need to supplement oats when it gets -40 out or that wind is really chilly. We'll go bring out our oats to our animals in the corn. We like the corn. It provides shelter initially for the animals. We do have shelter as well out there for them, but it seems to be working out well for us. And this is our crop. This picture is of our crop this year, and it's doing well. It could use a few more heat days, so we'd like to get a little more heat days in there, but hopefully it will produce a couple kernels for us. Silage. Okay, so let's talk about silage. We've gotten to silage for about, I think about 4 or 5 years now. And we just started off with just plain wheat silage, and it was working good, but now we switched to using pea wheat silage, and we seed all our own and put up all our own. And it's the bulk of our winter feed. So especially for our feedlot pens. And then the corn, if the corn doesn't last as long as we hoped it would, then we would be feeding out the cows as well with this silage. So we feed the peas and the wheat together, but we put them in alternating rows. And this has increased the protein and the calcium of our silage significantly, because we're getting that protein from our peas. And whereas if you just have a plain wheat field, you don't have as much protein as we added in a pea or legume into that. Also, it's really good for the soil, right? We're keeping that base for the soil, and it's been working well for us. This is our crop this year, a picture of our crop from this year. Yeah, I think that's our silage. Okay, into our grazing. So our goal of our ranch is to spend limited resources on feed and winter feeding. As such, annual grazing rotations typically expand well into the winter months. Native range is maintained in a productive state by providing periods of rest. And along with cross-fencing our native range, we have been fencing off our Sounding Creek that runs through our pasture, as well as fencing off dugouts and wetlands, any larger wetlands. So we've been working on that. We do have quite a bit of land, so it's a little harder to fence everything and keep up with fencing, but we do try and move our animals as much as possible to protect that native grain. So we have a lot of, you can see, there's a picture of a calf, and then we have, those native flowers are just beautiful, that's for sure. This is something that's very interesting, especially to me as a nutritionist. So one other thing we are experimenting with is various legumes, and this is Sandpoint, and it's a beautiful field. And we started a project with Kara a few years ago, but the seeding rate didn't work out as well, and the stad didn't grow as good as it should. So, but then we got thinking, hey, we're just gonna seed a straight field of Sandpoint. And so 2 years ago we did this, and we seeded down approximately 45 acres, and it came out beautifully. So why Sandpoint? The reason for Sandpoint is that it's a legume species similar to like bird's foot trefoil that has tannins. So these tannins will bind to excess protein and in the rumen. So what happens is it's binding this protein, so it's not going to cause the animal to bloat. Like if you were to throw an animal out on fresh alfalfa, their stomach's not going to be very happy with that. Whereas if I threw animals out in this, they're able to eat it without getting as sick, and that's the tannins will either make it digestible later on in the intestinal tract. So it's just a slower digestion of those proteins, but the similar quality. So we're really excited about this, and we're going to harvest it this year, and we're going to hopefully reseed it in our own pasture, and we're hoping just to kind of get a seed bank going, and then we can graze it often. So that's the plan with that, and it's beautiful. So I really enjoy it. So our watering, so how we water. First off, we water test. We always water test. More frequently our wells, especially our feedlot wells, especially if it's the only source of water. And we do water test dugouts as well, depending on the year and depending on if that's the only water source in that pasture. And if we see a problem as well. So we haven't had too many problems with water. We have had like some high iron and stuff, but nothing that's too concerning. However, we still test quite a bit, just because that one time when it is concerning, you could lose a herd in there. So we used to, back 6 years ago, we used to just cut holes in the ice, and that was what we did. At the time, we only had 300 head of cattle, but still, that's a lot of head. And we used to cut holes, and it was just always that danger, right, of animals walking on the ice and hurting, drowning and hurting themselves. And so we got out of that, thank goodness, and we purchased three of these Sundog solar drink and drag systems, and they're used year round. We bought these ones in 2004. We bought one in 2014, and we bought the other two later in the year. Winter watering is easy. We find that these will ice up if it's -40, or like this is a pretty cold day. I took this one picture. It'll ice up a bit, but it's easy to knock out, and we do check our animals quite a bit, so it's not a huge deal. We do go out there once a day. This pasture, we were actually, it wasn't on the corn, it was this was an older picture, but we were feeding silage out in that cropland, and so we were able to just go check the water and knock the ice out if needed. But it had to be pretty cold. The cows were pretty good at getting that water. So this is a pretty big system. So this system was the largest system that they had at the time, and it can service 800 to 1,000 head in the winter. So we wanted the biggest system because we weren't sure how big our groups were going to get. We definitely have had 800 on it safely. So these systems at the time in 2014 were about $16,000. So they were expensive. However, I'll talk about it a little later, but we accessed some growing forward money for them, which made them half off, which was fantastic. And that's why we were able to get 3 of them. And the one nice thing about these systems is that they are portable and they're year round. So they're on wheels, really easy to hook up to a back of a truck. And we just move them around. That's my husband and my daughter there. And we are going to move a system. We take out the insert, so there's this insulated insert that comes out in the summer, and this system can service many more head in the summer than it can in the winter. We put it down, we pump water out of creek, out of the dugouts, out of sloughs, out of, whatever's a decent water source at the time, and a lot of wet wells. Our bison. So we are new into bison. We're finding them fun and challenging. We provide them with very similar mineral to our cattle. They do require a higher copper level, so we've actually increased the copper level in our cattle mineral, and because the cattle are fine, like having that copper level is fine with them. And so we are able to just use the prepartum and postpartum interchangeably with the bison and with the cattle. So our first calving season was this year, as we did buy the bison as calves and yearlings, and we don't breed them till they're 2. So this was our first year, and we don't know our calf crop number as of yet, but there are lots of babies running around there. We purchased 100 head of calves and yearlings, and initially had them in the feedlot where they got used to us. And I should have put that picture on here, but my husband has one of the bulls licking his hand. Like it was really neat, and they did get used to our presence being in the feedlot as young animals. And I think that made it easier. We'll drive out to the pasture now, and they will come up and rub against the truck, and they just kind of want to hang out, which can be scary at times. That you just got to be careful with the kids, but they've been pretty good that way. It's been better than a bunch of herd of them just taking off whenever they see a truck or a person. So it's kind of that the same with cattle. You got to have them liking you enough, but not liking you enough in the sense of being safe. So we had them, so after they were in the feedlot for a little bit, we threw them into a piece by our coulee, and that was we had a 4-strand kind of older barbed wire fence, but it was good condition, and we added 1 wire up top the fence. So we had these extensions coming off the posts and added another wire, and we found that worked. They stayed in, they were happy. We did move them just before they calved to another piece that we own of native prairie. And it's currently in a brand new 4-strand barbed wire fence, but it's brand new. We're finding that they're not respecting that fence as much as we'd hoped. So we're looking at adding electric wire. So we're just kind of new to this. We're hoping we don't have to put up like the bison elk fence all around our property, but we're hoping just to kind of put them in the coulee, and where our land is, where if they get out, they're kind of on our land. We're hoping to eventually do that. So we're really new to this, but our goal here is to tap into that specialty market, as we have many miles of the coulee and the creek where they naturally used to roam. So we're thinking this is just such a good spot for them. So we're just getting used to them. So our crop side. So I'm touching on crop side a little bit here, just because it really complements our cattle side as we grow all our own feed. So we grow our own super oats for feed, to feed cattle during the winter. So super oats is similar quality to barley, but it's cheaper to grow because it's cheaper to grow and it doesn't need to be rolled. And that's the big thing about it, right? You have to roll oats if you want to feed it to your cattle. However, this super oats, you don't have to roll it. So it's taken a lot of time off our hands because we used to roll oats constantly. And it's just been a lot easier, and we will continue using the super oats, and we find that they do very well nutritionally on it. You just got to think of it as the same as barley, and the reason why it doesn't have to be rolled is because it has less of the fibrous content on top. So it's just a breed of oats that doesn't have as much fibrous content, and it's similar to the barley with the fibrous content on the top. So if you're doing a ration, you just kind of put in what a barley value would be for the super oats. So we also seed a few other different crops. We're new to this Haymaker Forage oats. So you can see here, you see the toonie on the leaf of that oat there. That's a Haymaker Forage oats. So it's a forage oat with a higher forage and grain yield than Baylor oats, and so it has a high seed weight, and we're growing it on a poor field because we want to get that biomass and that trash left on that field to increase the soil. So we soil test every year, or try to soil test all our fields every year, and we really are working at increasing the biomass in our fields and making sure that that soil is nice and healthy. And so we're trying out, this is our first year of trying out this Haymaker Forage oats to see how it does and how it will protect that ground with the high biomass for a good ground cover. We plan to combine it and use it for our own silage mixture. So we want to mix it with the wheat and to have a pea wheat oat silage. So it's really gonna, make it we want to increase different species that'll really help with the soil as well as the animal feed nutritionally. So we're going to alternate the peas and the oats and the wheat. We are going to seed on the same row and just do it interchangeably, and then have the alternating row of peas for that nutritional value of the peas, and also the legume nitrogen fixing aspect for the soil. This other picture here, this is of canola. You can see under canola, there's actually some lentils growing. And so that was a mistake, but it ended up being cover crop, which was fantastic for us. But that was from last year. We sprayed it out, but it didn't quite go. But it's always good to see. We love to see ground cover. We love to see, we want to get more into cover crops and, make sure that ground is always covered. We also seed hard spring wheat, green peas, red lentils, corn, canola, and all of our stubble is grazed to utilize the nutrients coming out of those cows. So we rarely take hay and straw off the field unless it's absolutely necessary. And we have started straight cutting our crops as to leave as much on the field as possible. We do hay some of our meadows, but and because we do need hay for our working horses, because we do use horses to work all of our cattle. So we try, or sometimes we'll buy hay, but we really try and not take hay and stuff off the land. We try and graze and bring the cattle to the land to increase that soil. So here's some programs we're a part of. We've been a part of the Environmental Farm Plan since 2003, and we have just recently updated it here. And I actually had we actually went through the online version, and it was really good, and it worked out really well. And it's always good to be certified in that. We also we're inspected with Verified Beef Plus, and we are registered with BIPS. So together with Verified Beef Plus and BIPS, we were able to get on a pilot project called the Canadian Beef Sustainability Acceleration Pilot Project, and it's an opportunity for every sector of a supply chain to be incentivized. So cattle producers who are registered in BICS and certified with Verified Beef Plus, which is audited as certified sustainable, are eligible to receive a monetary reward for their efforts in supplying a certified sustainably raised animal. And so the financial credit supplied by supporting retailers and restaurants is paid out to each operation in the supply chain, provided those cattle move through the full audit system. So BICS helps provide that audit system for us. And so if you're registered with BICS, it'll just make sure that that cattle has been through. So since we background, we're able to kind of we're able to get to 2 sections. However, you have to get the monetary reward for this program, you have to make sure it goes to a feedlot that's certified, as well as to Cargill, the packing plant. Now, I have heard that that other packing plants are getting on board and are on board. So we're trying this out. We just got on this last year, and we're looking at seeing what kind of payout it will do for us. It's pretty easy to get on, and if you need help, I can definitely direct you to, or you can contact Verified Beef Plus or BICS, and they can help you out as well. So we've also taken advantage, not taken advantage, but been a part of all the stewardship programs that have been out there, starting with Growing Forward 1, where we got some fuel tanks, into Growing Forward 2, where we got some riparian fencing and dugout fencing, and our offsite water came from Growing Forward 2. And then we're tapping into Canadian Agricultural Partnership as well for our shelter belt fencing and irrigation. So I'll get into talking about our shelter belt plan, but it's definitely something that we look into all the time, and if you're doing projects anyway, it's really helpful. And it's a little bit of paperwork, but it's definitely worth it once you get approved. So we are, like I said, waiting on approval for our shelter belt, and so it's taken some time, but we were doing the project anyway, and we're fencing them anyway. So even if it doesn't come through, we're not going to be too upset, but it would be fantastic if the funding did come through. So we have two big projects this year on our farm. One is through the Buffalo Trail Riparian Restoration Program with the Battle River Watershed Alliance, and we're working together with them to protect and restore the creek. So as I mentioned before, we have quite a bit of miles of the creek running through our property, and we're winter feeding on cropland above this creek. And so our cattle always tend to want to migrate down to this coulee, and they want to hang out there, and they want to drink from the creek, and they want to walk on the creek, and they want to just hang out by the creek and overgraze the creek. And we want to protect the creek and have a water source. And so we want to try our best. It's been overgrazed for many, many, many years. And so now we're looking at protecting it, especially with the number of animals that we have in one paddock at one time. It could be up to 500-600 or even more. So that could be quite a significant impact. And so we're cross fencing as well as fencing off the creek completely. So our goal overall is to make sure that the cattle cannot access the creek at all. So, and the reason we want that is because we want to restore that riparian area, and we want that creek to hold the water it should, because we could utilize that water. That would be fantastic to utilize and to keep that healthy down there. And it'd be clean, good water once that happens. And so we're working with the Battle River Watershed, and we're looking at getting some assistance with help with fencing off that creek. We have a lot of miles of it, so we're looking at fencing off maybe 10 miles of it this year. We're not quite sure as much as what will get done and how much it'll work, but overall, that's our main goal, is to restrict access completely to that creek. And because we have enough wildlife that will graze that to help it out, we're using electric fencing as well, just one strand electric fence, and it seems to work well. We already have 2 miles of the of the creek fenced off, and it has been working well, keeping them off of it on that electric wire. So yeah. Our next project, our second big project in 2020 here, was the establishment of our Feedlot Eco Buffer. So this is an aerial view of the main home site of our main farm. So this whole project involved establishing multiple 3-row eco buffers around our property. We prioritize crucial areas of shelter. So if you can see here, this is our feedlot. Our feedlot is, yeah, you can see our feedlot there. It looks like I can use my mouse maybe. So we want to go directly around the feedlot, like completely shelter it. We do have a shelter belt off to the north there. However, there is a hill, like the feedlot's on a hill, so we don't find as much shelter as we need. We're still getting that wind, and so we're finding that we need a lot more shelter up close to the feedlot. So we have 2 goals for this project: establishing the wind protection for the feedlot, and our feed pens and our calving barn and our corral sites, and to help control the nutrient loads runoff from the feedlot, because there is a decent amount, and we have our catch basin to the south there of our feedlot, and but we still have that, you know, rich soil. And we did a soil test on the south part of our feedlot there beside the road, and our biological test came back fantastic. And so it was great for trees and everything. So it's definitely, you know, good soil down there as long as you manage it properly and you don't have too much. But once those trees are bigger, they're going to take in more nutrients, and they will help us contain all those nutrients that we get off that feedlot. So to achieve these goals, the eco buffers were planted as dense as possible, but we were still allowing room for maintenance between the rows. So we had about 3.5 meters between the rows and 1 meter within the row. So diverse native trees and species were planted. We laid down a biodegradable mulch, and it should last 3 to 4 years. And it's cornstarch based, I guess, and and we use the special areas for mulch layer, and we put that in. It took about, for all of those green areas you saw on this page here, it took us about 6 to 8 hours to put that mulch down. However, we're really seeing the benefits right now to it, because weeds are coming up faster than anything, and they're not coming up in that plastic. So it's really helping those sapling trees. And it was pretty easy to put down once the boys got used to it, and help from Oz, the Agroforestry and Woodland Extension Society. So we have a diverse and native tree species that were planted. We actually piggybacked off of a project that was on the go. So we ended up with Oz providing us with a lot more trees than we thought, which was wonderful. And but they were kinds that might not do as great here, but I guess this is the trial to see if they will do great here. So this is just a list of some of the short and tall shrubs in our trees and long-lived trees that we got planted, and how many of them. And that box next to it shows where they were planted. So you can see that they're planted interchangeably, and they're planted close and densely together. So the Feedlot Eco Buffer is approximately 600 meters in length, and it wraps around the perimeter. And on the north side, the taller long-lived species were planted closest to the side of the feedlot to mitigate that wind, to make sure that wind goes up the right direction. Additional eco buffers were planted around the goat pen, we call it the goat pen, but it's another feed pen, and that's to the north a bit, and extending from the northern edge of the feedlot buffer. So, and then we had a single row of a 77-meter buffer to the north of our barn pen, and another 100-meter buffer was planted east of the farm. So we used the fast-growing sucker species were favored, and because we want to quickly capture the site, and we want it intermixed with nitrogen-fixing species and the white spruce to improve the long-term survival. Essentially, we're hoping that after a few years, you're not maintaining the site, you're not mowing, it essentially, the rows will fill in. So essentially you're making a bush, right? You're making bushes where down here we don't have a lot of. And so I'm pretty excited about that. I did forget to mention that I'm from a little bit northern of the province, so I was used to a few more trees. So I married into the Gould family 5 years ago now. No, 4 years. 5 years ago now. Yes, 5 years ago now. I've been around here about 10 years or 9 years. And so, yeah, so it was neat kind of, you know, creating bush here and seeing how it would work. And we did want a low maintenance system. And that's why we went with the Eco Buffer versus the traditional shelter belt, because we wanted it to maintain itself. So we tilled, so this is it planted, and we got some spruce in there, and then we also put some grass mix species on the tilled area there to kind of establish a cover crop so the weeds don't take over. There is a bunch of weeds over there now, but our grasses are coming up as well. I'll talk about, we repeatedly tilled the sites until the soil was black and crumbly. It took a few runs for sure, especially on areas that were well traveled and pasture that was packed down. So obviously a lot of the pasture around the farm is more heavily used, and we're trying to step away from that, but it has been over the years. And so we had to till that. It did take a few days for sure on the tiller to till it up. But if we got it really nice, black and crumbly, it was really easy to lay the mulch stuff. So we seeded and tilled up the ground and put on that perennial ground cover mix. And then we applied that biodegradable mulch and then planted the trees into the mulch. So irrigation. So these are me and my kids. We had fun watering trees. So the first time we went and watered the trees, we didn't have the water truck set up, and we just kind of had our big black mineral tubs in the box of a pickup, and the whole family went out and we were paling it. And that was a little hard and a little labor intensive for sure. So the next time we went out and watered, thank God for a bit of rain. The next time we went out, my husband and his brother got this truck set up for us. And it's just a pickup truck with a big water tank on the back with a hose, and it's gravity fed. So I find it very easy. It's fun for the kids. We do go out. It takes me, for all of that green stuff you saw around the feedlot, it takes me alone with 3 kids about 6 to 8 hours to do that. I think it would take me less time if I didn't have the 3 kids running around, but they like to help, and it works out well. And it has been working out good so far, and we have definitely been blessed with a little bit of rain, so we don't have to go out and water all the time. I will show you. Oh, I can't show you that. But I do have a chart too. So if anyone's interested in knowing, well, how much water do they need? You know, am I watering all the time? I went out, so we planted this back in early June, and I've been out 3 times watering, but I've watered the whole system maybe twice. And so how it works is that, you know, we'd water and then some rain would come, and then we'd start on the trees that we hadn't watered yet. And even when rain comes, we definitely want to give them a good drink too. So I do have a chart, and I've been keeping chart of all the rain we've been getting and every time we've watered. And I'm just going to kind of keep that and see how that will work out, and provide that to some of our care clients as well, and kind of see how much water you need and how much water do those little trees need in our environment and in our soils. So we're dry as it is. So we thought we'd have to water a little more. So it's been great for a little bit of rain this year. Oops. So a little unfortunate part of the trees is that you see on the left-hand side there, that's a poor little spruce tree. Our gophers and deer have eaten parts of our west end of the feedlot, and that's where we need our most wind protection, is from that northwest wind. And those deer and gophers seem to think those are yummy. So unfortunately, we're going to have to replant a lot of, on that west end, a lot of our spruce. And we will replant them, and possibly we'll put cages or tubes or something on them to protect them this time. Our Saskatoons, our dogwoods, a lot of other stuff has been doing really well. Our raspberries are great. So if anything, we'll have a shelter belt of raspberries for sure. So part of that eco buffer design is suckering species. So those raspberries and those those poplars. And so suckering species have been favored to ensure that the site is quickly colonized. So root pruning can accelerate the suckering process, and it can create a more dense, natural looking eco buffer. So it's not mandatory for the survival of the eco buffer, but we're considering doing this in the fall of the second year after planting. So it entails going along each planted row with a blade or a hook. So you're not trying to cut off, but you're trying to injure that part of the root system. So, and it will help create a sucker at that point. So we're gonna try that out and see how that works. So yeah, that's what I have for you today. I'm wondering if there's any questions.
Perfect. Yep, I have a few questions already in the bank here. I'm just going to take the screen quickly. Oh, why isn't it going? Oh no, not from the beginning. Oh no. Sorry, guys. Okay. Oh, now it just goes right there. Okay. There we go. Sorry about that. So thank you, Lacey. That was great. Before we go into questions, we have another quick poll for you to fill out. The poll should be on your screen now. Simply check your response and then click the submit button to close out the screen. Just a reminder, if you do have any questions, you can ask them using the Q&A button or the chat box by typing it in. I will also link in the Canadian Agriculture Partnership Program link because she did mention it a few times, so I will share that as well. So let's just have a quick look at the poll. So we have 42% said that today's webinar will help influence your management practices. 28% said maybe, and 30% said not applicable. And then, did you learn something today? 100%. So that's great to see that everybody learned something. So, so let me pull up. Oh, all my stuff left my screen. So, okay. So, do you happen to know the variety of the super oats that you guys grow?
So it's called Super Oats, and it was the first generation Super Oats. I know that it's called Nasser is the second generation, I believe. We haven't done that one yet. So it's just the first generation. I'm not sure. I can look into if it's a certain number or something, but it's just the first generation.
Okay, if anyone is interested in seeing the water charts, because it sounds like a few people are, if you could just email Lacey. I have her email address on the screen right now. And she
we'll also put this whole project up on our Carol website, and we'll be, if you want to follow it there as well. I'll be, making lots of goods and bads about what we did. So.
And I'll be sure to share that on the Grazing School for Women's Facebook page as well. So, does Oz provide help, mentorship for the trees?
Yes, Oz is fantastic. So the Agroforestry and Woodland Extension Society, they were wonderful to work with. They came out and they helped us plan what are we, do we want an eco buffer? Do we want a shelter belt? Where do we want it? Come stake out. And they're very helpful with the whole process on what we were doing. And I had experience with shelter belts. I'm not planting one myself, but through my work. And I still was just overwhelmed with the whole project. And it took me, and I wanted to start this project a few years ago, and I just haven't started it yet. And so they really helped. They just know what they're doing, and definitely contact them with if you need help establishing just your initial plan. They'll come out and do a site assessment, trying to help you which trees to decide. And yeah, Ian and Noel are just fantastic up there. So they were, and they helped us decide all that stuff. And then they're coming back to do an assessment as well, because it's a project with them. So they're helping us do, they're going to assess the trees and see how they do. And yeah.
This one's just a comment. Excellent presentation. It was great to see such a diverse and conservation-minded family-run business. So that's nice to
Thank
see.
you.
Where did you source your tree seedlings from?
They were actually sourced from, Oz sourced them for us because it's a project with them. We were able to actually get all our trees free of cost, which was amazing. Yeah, so I'm not sure where they sourced them out of, but I can get back to you on that. It'll be part of the project, but they kind of brought the trees to us. And like I said, we were piggybacking off another project. It was initially going to be only just 2 rows around our, just 3 rows on the west north end where we needed that protection, but then there was a few more trees available, and so they were able to increase our project and bring us more seedlings. So I can get that information for you on where. I believe it's in Alberta though that they were sourced.
Okay, we have somebody that raised their hand. So Rachel, if you are very available, I'm just going to allow you to talk. Are you there? Oh, I think she might be muted. Okay. Okay. If you have a question, Rachel, can you please just comment in the question box? Sometimes the raise your hand to allow speaking doesn't allow. So technology. Can you tell us a bit about how your family-run business operates? Do you guys have regular meetings, official office space, separate roles, that kind of thing?
That's a good question. So, yeah, so we've started to definitely try, and we put a very high importance on our meetings. We haven't done great in the past. We just rely on kind of talking with each other as we pass by, but we found that can cause problems and people not thinking the right way. And since there is so many involved in decision making on the farm, we definitely have been able to have our meetings, and we actually usually we have our accountant, like yearly or twice a year we have our accountant and our lawyer meetings, and we're all there. So we always make sure everyone's there, and so everyone has a say and every opinion is respected. And yes, we've had decisions we don't agree with. However, overall, we've worked very, very well together, and I'm very impressed with my husband and his brothers and sisters because they do work very well together as a family. And I have a wonderful sister-in-law, and we seem to be working out well. We try, and we always say we're going to have a monthly meeting, but being crop and cattle, we find that very hard to get everyone in one place. We definitely have to work on that aspect, but as of right now, it's running well, and they're working very well together, and it's very helpful. Sometimes it feels overwhelming, but at times you always have help. There's always someone else, right, that's there to help out, and so it's been running well, but we need to work on regular meetings. We haven't really done that as well as we should.
Another comment was, thank you, Lacey, for comments about the Verified Beef Plus program and the sustainability programs. The links are in the Q&A box there too. So, and unfortunately our raise the hand option is not currently working. It's just technology some days. If you could just use the chat box or the Q&A box, that would be greatly appreciated. So I'll just quickly go back and see if there's any others. Okay. It looks like we have all the questions answered. Again, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to email her. The email address is still on the screen. So I guess we'll wrap this up a little bit early. Just as a reminder, on Thursday, we have our mental health and agriculture webinar with Adele Stewart from the Do More Egg Foundation. This webinar is not recorded, so you will have to attend live if you want to listen to it. And then thanks again to everyone that came out, and thank you again to our committee members that helped organize these. We will be sending out the recording links after the sessions are all done. And there will also be a survey link that will be sent out. These surveys help us to plan for our future events. So if you could just take a quick minute to fill it out, it would be greatly appreciated. And thank you again to everyone, and thank you, Lacey, for speaking. And thanks everyone for tuning in today. So we hope to see you on Thursday, or hear you on Thursday.